The pristine marble lobby of Technova Solutions gleamed under fluorescent lights, a testament to corporate success worth $2.4 billion. At 2:47 p.m. on what seemed like an ordinary Tuesday, Amara Washington stepped through the revolving glass doors, her designer heels clicking against the polished floor. She carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to boardrooms and high-stakes negotiations, her $400 silk blouse impeccable, her briefcase bearing the embossed logo of a prestigious law firm. Regional Manager Brad Stevens looked up from his conversation near the reception desk, his eyes sweeping over Amara with undisguised contempt. "What are you doing here? Did security let another one slip through?" His voice boomed across the lobby, causing heads to turn and conversations to pause mid-sentence. "You people always think you can waltz into places you don't belong. Well, not on my watch." What happened next would forever change Technova Solutions and serve as a cautionary tale about the devastating cost of assumptions. Without warning, Brad grabbed his 20-ounce Pepsi and, with deliberate malice, poured the entire contents over Amara's head. Dark cola cascaded down her face, soaking her expensive blouse and pooling on the marble floor. Important merger contracts floated in sticky brown puddles as her briefcase took the brunt of the assault. The lobby fell into stunned silence. 15 employees and visitors froze mid-conversation, phones emerging from pockets like digital weapons ready to capture the unfolding drama. But Amara Washington didn't scream. She didn't cry or curse or demand an apology. Instead, she stood motionless, embodying a dignity that seemed almost otherworldly in the face of such public humiliation. With cola still dripping from her natural hair onto her designer heels, she calmly reached for her phone and began photographing Eve, writhing. Her ruined clothes, the scattered documents, the shocked faces of onlookers. She glanced at her gold Cartier watch, 2:48 p.m. 12 minutes, she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. Brad straightened his tie, chest puffed with satisfaction. "That's what happens when people forget their place," he announced to the gathering crowd, his security badge dangling like a medal of authority. He believed he owned this moment, that he had successfully defended his corporate territory from an unwelcome intruder. Maya Rodriguez, the young Latina receptionist, stepped forward hesitantly. "Sir, this lady has proper visitor credentials. She's here for—" "Are you questioning my authority, Maya?" Brad's voice cut through her explanation like a blade. "Because I can have you writing up incident reports all week." Maya's face flushed crimson as she glanced apologetically at Amara before retreating to the safety of her desk. Jerome Washington, no relation to the CEO despite the shared surname, approached with the measured steps of a man who'd seen enough workplace drama to recognize trouble brewing. At 45, the black security guard had learned to navigate corporate politics with careful professionalism. "What seems to be the problem, Mr. Stevens?" he asked, his voice steady despite the tension crackling in the air. "This woman is trespassing," Brad pointed dramatically at Amara, who was still methodically gathering her soggy documents from the floor. "Remove her immediately. She's clearly here to steal proprietary information or cause trouble." As Amara knelt gracefully to collect her papers, several employees caught glimpses of official letterheads marked "Confidential, CEO Only," and "Meridian Acquisition, $340 million. Junior executive Lisa Miller watched from the elevator bank, her iPhone recording discreetly. She'd worked at Technova for 18 months and had never witnessed Brad display such aggressive behavior. Something about the entire situation felt deeply wrong. "Ma'am," Jerome said gently, "I need to ask what brings you here today." Amara looked up, water droplets still falling from her hair like tears she refused to shed. "I'm delivering time-sensitive documents to the CEO. David is expecting these for his 3:00 p.m. board meeting." She handed Jerome her visitor badge with the same calm composure she'd maintained throughout the ordeal. Jerome's eyebrows rose slightly as he read the access level, VIP Executive Suite, but before he could examine it closely, Brad snatched the badge from his hands. "Fake! Obviously fake! You think we're stupid? David? You mean Mr. Washington? Like the CEO would associate with—" He paused, searching for words that wouldn't cross certain lines, even as his intentions remained crystal clear. "With what exactly?" Amara's voice cut through his rant like ice, each word precisely enunciated. The lobby fell silent again, even the background chatter from other floors seeming to pause in anticipation. Brad's face reddened as he struggled to articulate his prejudice in corporate-appropriate language. Assistant Manager Carol Rodriguez emerged from the elevator, drawn by the commotion like a moth to flame. At 38, she'd climbed the corporate ladder by never challenging authority, and she quickly sized up the situation with practiced efficiency. Black woman, expensive clothes, confrontation with Brad, her mental checklist complete. She positioned herself beside him in a show of solidarity. Is there a problem here? Carol asked, her tone suggesting she already knew the answer. Just removing an unwanted visitor, Brad replied with renewed confidence, bolstered by her support. Someone who thinks she can waltz in here claiming to know the CEO. Carol's eyes narrowed as she studied Amara with the suspicious gaze of someone looking for confirmation of her own biases. Security should have screened her propa. Ellie, Jerome, how did she get past the front desk? She has proper credentials, Jerome said carefully, aware that his next words could determine the trajectory of his career. VIP access badge, signed visitor log. Those can be forged, Carol interrupted, dismissing his concerns with a wave of her hand. Brad's right to be cautious. We've had issues with corporate espionage lately. Meanwhile, Amara continued her methodical documentation, photographing everything with the thoroughness of someone who understood the importance of evidence. Her phone buzzed repeatedly with incoming calls. The caller ID showed David, but she declined each one with steady hands. She had work to finish first. Lisa Miller stepped closer, pretending to check her email while recording. As someone who'd studied the company directory extensively, something about Amara seemed familiar. The confident posture despite the humiliation, the expensive jewelry that spoke of real wealth, the way she handled crisis with the composure of someone accustomed to high-pressure situations. 10 minutes, Amara murmured, checking her watch again. 10 minutes until what? Brad demanded, paranoia creeping into his voice. Until your accomplices arrive? Until you complete whatever scheme you're running? Maya bit her lip, glancing between the escalating confrontation and her computer screen. She'd seen Amara's name in the visitor logs before. Monthly visits, always with VIP clearance, always requesting CEO access. The familiarity nagged at her conscience like an insistent whisper. Sir, Maya said quietly, maybe I should call upstairs and... You'll do no such thing, Carol snapped, her authority ringing hollow in the marble space. We handle our own security issues down here. Amara's phone buzzed with a text message visible to those nearby. Meridian contracts needed ASAP. Board meeting moved to 2:50. Where are you? She showed the screen to Jerome, whose expression shifted subtly as he processed the implications. Mr. Stevens, Jerome said, his voice carrying a note of warning, perhaps we should verify her story before... I don't care about her story, Brad's voice echoed off the walls like thunder. Look at her. Does she look like CEO material to you? Use your eyes, Jerome. The racial undertone hung in the air like toxic smoke, impossible to ignore, yet officially deniable. Several employees exchanged uncomfortable glances while Lisa's recording captured every poisonous word for posterity. Robert Harrison, a well-dressed white executive, approached from the coffee station with growing unease. He'd been watching the scene unfold with the horrified fascination of someone witnessing a train wreck in slow motion. Brad, what's all the shouting about? Just handling a security breach, Rob. Nothing you need to worry about. Robert studied Amara, taking in her expensive briefcase and professional demeanor despite being soaked in soda. Years of corporate experience had taught him to recognize when situations were spiraling out of control. Ma'am, are you all right? Do you need medical attention? I'm fine, thank you, Amara replied, her gratitude genuine despite the circumstances. I just need to deliver these documents. 8 minutes. 8 minutes until what? Robert asked gently, his tone a stark contrast to Brad's aggressive interrogation. Until David's board meeting starts. He's expecting the Meridian acquisition contracts. Robert's face paled as the words hit him like cold water. He knew about the Meridian deal, $340 million acquisition, highly confidential, board-level approval required today. The implications of the situation suddenly became terrifyingly clear. Brad, Robert said slowly, his voice carrying a warning that went unheeded. Maybe we should... Stay out of this, Rob. I've got everything under control. But control was slipping away like water through his fingers. Amara's calm confidence contrasted sharply with Brad's growing hysteria, and the assembled employees could sense something bigger brewing beneath the surface of this public confrontation. Maya's computer chimed with an instant message that made her heart skip a beat. Is Mrs. Washington downstairs? CEO is looking for merger documents. Her eyes widened as she looked at Amara, then back at her screen, the pieces of a terrible puzzle finally clicking into place. "Oh my God," Maya whispered, the color draining from her face. Brad caught her expression, his paranoia spiking. "What's wrong with you now?" "Nothing, sir, just checking something." Maya's finger hovered over her keyboard like a sword over a neck, the weight of her decision crushing down on her young shoulders. The countdown continued inexorably. 7 minutes until 3 p.m., 7 minutes until everything changed in ways that would ripple through Technova Solutions for years to come. The lobby had become a powder keg, and Amara Washington held the match, not in anger, but in quiet dignity that would soon transform into the most devastating form of justice corporate America had ever witnessed. Carol Rodriguez stepped closer to Amara, studying her expensive Hermes handbag and custom-fitted blazer with the eye of someone trying to solve a puzzle. Despite the soda stains, everything about this woman screamed money and class in a way that couldn't be faked or borrowed. "You know what I think?" Carol announced loudly, playing to the crowd like an actor seeking applause. "I think you're one of those con artists who dress up nice and target tech companies. Probably already hit Google and Apple this week." Robert Harrison shifted uncomfortably, his conscience warring with corporate politics. "Carol, that seems a bit what? Observant? Realistic?" Carol's voice carried across the lobby with the conviction of someone who believed herself to be protecting corporate interests. "Look at her, Rob. She shows up here claiming to know our CEO personally. David Washington? The David Washington? It's laughable." Amara continued gathering her soggy documents with methodical precision, separating salvageable pages from ruined ones. Her movements were those of a woman accustomed to crisis management, someone who had learned to function under pressure while others lost their composure. 6 minutes, she said softly, her voice barely audible above the ambient noise of the lobby. Jerome watched the scene unfold with the growing unease of a man who'd spent 12 years in corporate security. In all that time, he'd never encountered anyone who handled public humiliation with such otherworldly composure. Most people would be screaming, crying, or threatening lawsuits by now. Amara's reaction suggested either exceptional self-control or the confidence of someone who knew something the rest of them didn't. Lisa Miller had positioned herself strategically near the elevator bank, her iPhone capturing everything while she maintained the pretense of casual observation. Her business journalism background was screaming that this was a story worth documenting, something that would resonate far beyond the marble walls of Technova's lobby. "Jerome," Brad commanded, his voice cracking with authority that was beginning to sound increasingly hollow. "Escort this woman out immediately. Use force if necessary." Jerome hesitated, the weight of the moment pressing down on him like a physical force. The racial dynamics weren't lost on him. A black security guard being ordered to forcibly remove a black woman by white managers who refused to verify her legitimate credentials. The irony was as sharp as a blade. "Sir, maybe we should follow proper protocol first. Call upstairs and, are you deaf? I said remove her now." Brad's face had flushed crimson, sweat beading on his forehead despite the air conditioning. "Your protocol is whatever I tell you it is. Do your job or find another one." The threat hung in the air like a sword, but Jerome had reached a decision point that would define not just his career, but his character. Years of experience had taught him to read situations, and everything about this one screamed danger, not from the woman they were harassing, but from the consequences of their actions. More employees emerged from elevators and stairwells, drawn by the escalating voices like spectators to a gladiator match. The lunch crowd was returning, creating a growing audience for what was rapidly becoming a public spectacle. Marketing Director Jennifer Walsh approached with her afternoon coffee, her expression puzzled as she took in the scene. "What's all the commotion about?" "Security issue," Carol replied smoothly, her corporate training kicking in. "Nothing we can't handle." Jennifer studied Amara's professional demeanor and expensive accessories with the eye of someone who knew quality when she saw it. "She doesn't look like a security threat." "Ma'am, are you injured? Do you need assistance?" "I'm fine, thank you," Amara replied, her gratitude cutting through the tension like a ray of sunlight. "I just need to reach the 32nd floor before 3 o'clock. Jennifer's eyebrows shot up in surprise. The 32nd floor housed only executive offices and the CEO's private suite, not exactly accessible to random visitors or corporate con artists. Brad laughed harshly, the sound grating against the marble walls like fingernails on a chalkboard. "You hear that? She wants to go to the executive floor, probably planning to steal corporate secrets or plant eating devices. 5 minutes. Amara checked her watch again, her calm becoming more pronounced as the deadline approached. Her phone buzzed with another text message, this one visible to several people nearby. Emergency board meeting starting early. Need Meridian contracts immediately. Where are you? David. Robert's face went white as he recognized the implications. He'd just come from the 31st floor where he'd overheard executives discussing the emergency session. The Meridian acquisition was Technova's biggest deal of the year, $340 million that could make or break their quarterly earnings. Brad, Robert said quietly, his voice carrying a note of desperate warning. I think we should, what should we do? Brad spun around, his paranoia reaching fever pitch. Let some random woman con her way into our most secure areas? Rob, I expected better judgment from someone at your level. Lisa's live stream on LinkedIn had attracted 47 viewers and climbing, comments flooding in like digital rainfall. This is workplace discrimination in real time. Someone call HR immediately. That woman is way too calm. Something's coming. Why won't they just verify her credentials? Maya couldn't take it anymore. Her conscience had finally overridden her fear of Brad's retaliation, and she picked up her desk phone with trembling fingers. Maya, what are you doing? Carol demanded, moving toward the reception desk like a predator sensing weakness. Following proper security protocol, Maya replied, her heart pounding so hard she was certain everyone could hear it. Brad lunged toward the phone, but Maya had already connected to the executive floor. Mr. Washington's office, this is Sarah. Hi, Sarah. This is Maya at the front desk. I have Mrs. Washington here, who says she's delivering documents to the CEO. A pause that seemed to stretch for eternity, then, thank God, put her on immediately. Mr. Washington has been looking everywhere for those contracts. The lobby fell silent except for the hum of air conditioning and the distant sound of elevators moving between floors. Brad's confident expression cracked like ice under pressure, revealing something desperate and ugly underneath. Maya held out the phone to Amara with hands that shook slightly. Ma'am, Mr. Washington's assistant would like to speak with you. Amara accepted the phone with the same grace she'd maintained throughout the ordeal. Sarah? Yes, it's me. I'm in the lobby with the Meridian contracts, but there's been a slight delay. Even from several feet away, people could hear Sarah's relieved voice. Oh, thank goodness, Mr. Washington was about to send security down to look for you. The board meeting moved up to 2:55. Can you come up immediately? I'll be right there, Amara replied, handing the phone back to Maya. The silence that followed was the kind that precedes earthquakes, pregnant with the potential for destruction. Brad's mouth opened and closed like a fish desperate for water, while Carol took an unconscious step backward as if trying to distance herself from the unfolding disaster. Robert cleared his throat, his corporate instincts finally overriding his loyalty to Brad. Brad, I think there might have been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Brad said, but his voice lacked its earlier conviction, wavering like a flag in an uncertain wind. Anyone can pretend to be someone's wife. Happens all the time. Jennifer Walsh pulled out her phone and quickly Googled David Washington's CEO wife, her face going pale as images loaded. The woman standing before them, soaked in Pepsi and holding soggy documents, was indeed Amara Washington, Harvard MBA, former McKinsey partner, board member of 3 Fortune 500 companies. 4 minutes, Amara said, stepping toward the elevators with the same measured pace she'd maintained throughout the confrontation. Brad moved to block her path, desperation making him reckless. You're not going anywhere until we verify your identity properly. Jerome, detain her. Jerome looked between Brad's red face and Amara's calm composure, 12 years of experience telling him that something was catastrophically wrong with this situation. Sir, with respect, the CEO's office just confirmed. I don't care what they confirmed. Use your eyes. Does she look like CEO wife material to you? The racist implication hung in the air like toxic gas, impossible to ignore and equally impossible to officially acknowledge. Several employees exchanged shocked glances while Lisa's recording captured every damning word. Amara's phone rang, and this time she answered. Hi, darling. Yes, I'm still downstairs. There's been a small complication with building security. Even from several feet away, a deep male voice could be heard through the speaker. What kind of complication? Do you need me to come down? That might be helpful, Amara replied with the same calm that had characterized her entire ordeal. I have your Meridian contracts, but Mr. Stevens seems to believe I'm some sort of security threat. A pause, then the voice grew noticeably cooler. Put Stevens on the phone. Brad shook his head frantically, waving his hands like a man trying to stop a runaway train. I'm not falling for this scam. Probably your boyfriend helping with the con. Amara held out the phone. He'd like to speak with you. Absolutely not. Jerome, I order you to arrest this woman for trespassing, fraud, and attempted corporate espionage. Jerome looked at the phone in Amara's hand, then at Brad's increasingly desperate expression. In 30 seconds, this situation had shifted from routine security to potential career suicide. The elevator chimed with mechanical precision, its soft whoosh cutting through the tension like a blade. 3 minutes until 3 o'clock, Amara said, checking her watch one final time. The tension in the lobby reached a breaking point. Employees held their breath like divers preparing for a deep plunge. Lisa's live stream viewers had topped 100, comments flowing like digital water. Maya gripped her desk edge until her knuckles went white, understanding instinctively that she was about to witness something that would change everything. The elevator doors slid open with the inevitability of fate itself, revealing polished steel that reflected the lobby's tension like a funhouse mirror. Then he stepped out. David Washington, 6 feet 2 inches of impeccable authority wrapped in a $3,000 charcoal suit. For 8 years, he'd commanded Technova Solutions, with the kind of leadership that had built a company worth $2.4 billion. His presence filled the space instantly, the kind of natural authority that couldn't be faked or purchased. His eyes swept the lobby, taking in the crowd, the scattered documents, the puddles of cola staining the marble floors like evidence of some corporate crime. Then his gaze landed on his wife, and the transformation was instantaneous. Amara. His voice carried across the silent space with the weight of recognition and growing concern. What happened to you? The effect was immediate and devastating. Brad's confident sneer dissolved into pure terror, his face going white as fresh snow. Carol stepped backward so quickly, she nearly tripped over her own feet. Robert's coffee cup slipped from nerveless fingers, shattering on the floor like the last remnants of normalcy. Amara turned toward her husband with the same calm composure she'd maintained throughout the ordeal, as if being doused in soda by hostile employees was merely another challenge to be managed with professional grace. I brought your Meridian contracts. They got a little wet. David's expression shifted through confusion, recognition, then ice-cold fury as he processed the scene before him. His wife, Harvard MBA, former McKinsey partner, board member of 3 Fortune 500 companies, standing soaked in soda while his employees gawked like spectators at a traffic accident. Someone explain to me, David said, his tone dropping 10 degrees into territory that made grown executives weep, why my wife is covered in Pepsi. The silence that followed was the kind reserved for funeral homes and disaster sites, heavy with the weight of consequences yet to unfold. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. Brad's mouth opened and closed soundlessly, sweat now beading on his forehead despite the aggressive air conditioning. The man who'd been so vocal moments ago seemed to have lost not just his voice, but his capacity for coherent thought. I asked a question, David continued, each word precisely enunciated like bullets being loaded into a chamber. Someone explain, now. Jerome stepped forward first, his security training overriding his shock. Sir, there was a misunderstanding about Mrs. Washington's visitor credentials. Misunderstanding? David's eyebrows rose in an expression that had made CFOs of major corporations reconsider their quarterly projections. Jerome, my wife has been visiting this office monthly for 3 years. She's photographed at every company event. Her picture hangs in my office. Meanwhile, Lisa Miller's live stream was exploding with activity as viewers realized what they were witnessing. Her follower count jumped from 847 to 2,300 in real time as the video spread across LinkedIn, Twitter, and TikTok like digital wildfire. The corporate world loved nothing more than watching privilege get its comeuppance, especially when it was captured in high definition. Jennifer Walsh frantically scrolled through her Google results, finding image after image of David and Amara Washington at charity galas, business conferences, and Technova corporate events. The woman standing before them wasn't just the CEO's wife, she was a business powerhouse in her own right, someone whose professional accomplishments could fill multiple resumes. Ma'am, Jennifer approached Amara cautiously, her voice thick with mortification. I am so incredibly sorry. I had no idea who you were. You had no idea because you saw a black woman and made assumptions, Amara replied quietly, her words cutting deeper than any scream could have. Just like everyone else here. David moved closer to his wife, his protective instincts flaring like solar flares. He'd built Technova from a startup in his garage to a publicly traded corporation. But right now, he looked ready to tear the building down brick by brick if necessary. Amara, tell me exactly what happened. She handed him her phone, showing the photos she'd taken with methodical precision. The sequence told the story perfectly. Brad's aggressive posture, the deliberate pouring of soda, the scattered contracts floating in sticky puddles, the growing crowd of onlookers who'd watched in fascinated horror. David's jaw tightened as he scrolled through the images, each one time-stamped with courtroom precision. This has been going on for 15 minutes, he said, looking at the metadata. 14 minutes and 47 seconds, Amara confirmed, checking her watch one final time. Maya found her voice first, stepping forward with the courage of someone who'd chosen conscience over career security. Mr. Washington, I tried to help. I called your office when... Maya, you did exactly right, David said, his tone softening for the young receptionist who'd shown basic human decency. Thank you for following proper protocol when others chose not to. His gaze shifted to Brad, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the marble floor, to become one with the stone rather than face the consequences of his actions. Mr. Stevens, you've worked here for how long? 4 years, sir, Brad stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. 4 years, and in those 4 years, you many times has my wife visited this office. Brad's throat worked soundlessly, the answer written on his face like a confession. He knew exactly who Amara was. He'd seen her before, probably dozens of times. He'd deliberately chosen to humiliate her anyway, racial prejudice overriding professional judgment and basic human decency. I didn't recognize... Brad began weakly. You didn't recognize the woman whose photo is displayed in the main conference room? The woman who spoke at our last 3 company meetings? The woman who established our diversity scholarship program? Each question hit like a physical blow, revealing not ignorance but malicious intent. Brad's legs seemed to be failing him, his corporate authority crumbling like a house built on sand. Carol Rodriguez tried to salvage the situation with the desperate energy of someone watching their career burn in real time. Sir, we were just being cautious about corporate security. There have been incidents. Carol, David's voice could have frozen hellfire itself. Are you seriously trying to justify pouring soda on my wife? No, sir, I would never... But you stood there and watched. You encouraged it. You called her a con artist. David's disappointment was somehow worse than his anger, carrying the weight of broken trust and shattered expectations. Robert Harrison stepped forward, his face ashen with the realization of how badly he'd misread the situation. David, I tried to intervene. I suggested we verify her credentials. You suggested, David repeated slowly, while my wife was being publicly humiliated by my own employees. His disappointment was a physical force in the room. Robert, I expected better from someone at your level. The crowd of employees had grown to nearly 30 people, phones everywhere capturing every moment like digital witnesses to corporate justice. This wasn't just workplace drama anymore. It was a viral moment happening in real time, the kind of content that would be studied in business schools for years to come. Amara's phone buzzed with notifications as news outlets began picking up the story from social media feeds. #Technova. Incident was trending nationally, with black voices across platforms sharing their own stories of workplace discrimination. The ripple effects were already spreading far beyond the marble lobby of one Chicago tech company. David pulled out his own phone, typing rapidly with the efficiency of someone accustomed to crisis management. Within seconds, every executive in the building received an emergency alert. All department heads to lobby immediately. Code red personnel situation. What are you doing? Brad asked, panic creeping into his voice like water through cracks in a dam. What I should have done years ago, David replied, his fingers still moving across the screen, creating consequences. The elevator chimed again, and this time 6 senior executives emerged like a tribunal of corporate judgment. The chief operating officer, head of human resources, legal counsel, chief financial officer, VP of marketing, and head of security stepped into the lobby, their faces registering shock as they took in the scene. Amara Washington, board member, major shareholder, the CEO's wife, stood soaked in soda while a crowd of employees watched in stunned silence. The implications hit them simultaneously. This wasn't just a disciplinary issue but a legal nightmare, a discrimination lawsuit waiting to happen against a publicly traded company, all documented on social media with the CEO's wife as the victim. "Gentlemen, ladies," David announced with the formality of someone delivering a verdict, "meet the perpetrators of what will undoubtedly become Technova's most expensive HR incident in company history." HR Director Patricia Miller immediately stepped forward with her tablet, ready to document everything with the thoroughness of someone who understood the legal implications. "Mrs. Washington, are you injured? Do you need medical attention?" "I'm fine, Patricia, but thank you for asking," Amara replied with genuine gratitude. "It's the first time anyone's shown concern for my well-being in the past 15 minutes. The assembled executives exchanged glances that spoke volumes about the severity of the situation. This wasn't just a disciplinary issue that could be handled quietly. It was a legal nightmare that would require damage control on multiple fronts: stock price impact, settlement costs, regulatory fines, reputation management. They were looking at millions in potential losses. Legal counsel James Morrison was already calculating damages in his head, his expression growing grimmer with each passing moment. The combination of documented discrimination, viral social media coverage, and the victim's high-profile status created a perfect storm of legal liability. "Brad," David continued with the measured tone of someone delivering a death sentence, "you poured soda on my wife. You called security to have her removed. You refused to verify her credentials when given multiple opportunities. You made racist comments about her appearance and right to be in this building." Each accusation landed like a sledgehammer, systematically destroying not just Brad's career but his future employability in corporate America. The man who'd swaggered with authority 15 minutes ago now looked like a broken marionette. "Carol, you participated in the harassment. You accused her of corporate espionage. You actively blocked her access to the elevators and supported Brad's actions despite clear evidence to the contrary." Carol's face had gone completely white, 20 years of SOM. Limbing the corporate ladder destroyed in 15 minutes of poor judgment and revealed prejudice. "And all of you," David addressed the crowd with the authority of someone whose decisions affected thousands of jobs, stood by and watched. "Some of you recorded it for entertainment. Only Maya and Robert showed any decency, and even Robert's intervention came too late." Amara checked her watch with the same calm precision she'd maintained throughout the ordeal. "It's 3:02. Your board meeting started 2 minutes ago." The reminder hit like cold water, bringing the financial implications into sharp focus. David had built his reputation on punctuality and preparedness. Missing a $340 million acquisition meeting because his wife was being racially harassed by his own employees was a new low in corporate dysfunction. "The Meridian contracts are in my briefcase," Amara continued with professional detachment. Slightly damp, but still legible. David took the briefcase, then made a decision that would reshape Technova's culture forever. "The board meeting is postponed. We have bigger issues to address than quarterly earnings." He turned to Patricia Miller with the finality of someone whose mind was made up. "Effective immediately, Brad Stevens is terminated for cause. No severance, no references, complete forfeiture of stock options." Brad's knees buckled as the full implications hit him. His $127,000 salary, his $23,000 annual bonus, his retirement savings tied up in company stock, all gone in an instant. The man who'd felt so powerful pouring soda on a black woman now faced unemployment and potential legal action. Carol Rodriguez is suspended pending full investigation. If HR determines her participation warrants termination, she'll join Brad in the unemployment line. The crowd watched in fascinated horror as careers imploded in real time. Justice delivered with surgical precision and corporate efficiency. "Jerome, you're promoted to head of building security, effective immediately. Maya, you're being moved to executive relations with a $15,000 raise and immediate enrollment in our executive development program." Swift justice for those who'd shown character under pressure, demonstrating that moral courage had tangible rewards in David's version of corporate America. "And everyone else," David continued, his gaze sweeping across the assembled employees. "Every single person who watched this happen will undergo mandatory bias training within the next week. Anyone who refuses will be terminated immediately." The room buzzed with nervous energy as people realized they were witnessing corporate consequences delivered at lightning speed. But Amara stepped forward with the wisdom of someone who understood that punishment alone couldn't prevent future incidents. "David," she said softly, her voice cutting through the tension. "This isn't just about punishment. It's about prevention." She was right, of course. She always was. This moment wasn't just about destroying the people who'd wronged her. It was about creating systems that would ensure it never happened to anyone else, regardless of their connection to corporate power. "You're absolutely right," David nodded, his respect for his wife's wisdom evident to everyone present. "Patricia, I want a complete diversity audit of all departments within 30 days, anonymous reporting systems implemented by Friday, quarterly sensitivity training for every employee, myself included." The transformation from humiliation to systematic reform was happening before their eyes. Revenge evolving into revolution with the efficiency that had made Technova a billion-dollar success story. But they weren't finished yet. David's phone rang, displaying board chairman William Foster's name on the screen like a harbinger of utter consequences. "I have to take this," David said, answering with the weariness of someone bracing for impact. "Bill, I'm dealing with a situation." "We all are," came the reply, loud enough for nearby people to hear. "Your wife's incident is already on CNN. The stock price has dropped 2 points in the last 5 minutes." The gravity hit everyone simultaneously like a physical blow. This wasn't just internal drama anymore. It was national news affecting shareholder value, regulatory attention, and the company's reputation in the global marketplace. "How bad is it?" David asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer.